Okay, a pleasure having you with us today.
It is a pleasure to be with you, my friend. It is a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, let's hop right in.
Okay.
Okay, we saw last night again the subject social justice. You know, it's a very painful one. But what many people now associated with is with violent protests and looting. Just last year, we've seen images I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. Streets in Manhattan burning, major departments stores looted and burned. And this is where you come in. Police standing by and not intervening. This was reportedly an orders from the top. Regardless of your feelings on the underlying subject, can you assure store owners that looting will never be tolerated, not for whatever reason or cause, and not even for 1 hour or one night?
Listen, the answer is we need to make our streets safe. Today they're not safe. New Yorkers don't feel safe in the streets. We need to deal with the gun violence, which has now gotten all too high. You got 100+% increase in gun violence. Murders are up. We need to deal directly with that. And we need to deal with what are increasingly big problems having to do with mental illness. We need to deal with that. And we obviously need to make sure that we return respect and accountability and proportionality to the NYPD, between the community and the NYPD, but we have to get the streets safe.
Right. So you mentioned a couple of things over this. Let's unpack it. You know, number one, about the crime. Right, crime has been going up, and typically the first to be affected by a rise in crime is the Jewish community, particularly visibly Jewish people like the Orthodox community. You know, this has been a painful subject for us. 2019, in the early part, in the beginning of 2020. There have been almost nearly daily assaults, and it's taken weeks until the mayor has woken up and the mayor decided, really crack down on it. Where would you stand on that?
I would stand very clear. It will not take me weeks. We cannot stand for anti-Semitism, anti-Asian, anti-Black, anywhere we experience it. We must denounce it from the outset. I want to be bright, clear, and unequivocal here. We need to denounce it. We need to visibly stand up against it.
The other side of the coin, I wouldn't call this anti-Semitism, but there is a certain feeling of discrimination that Orthodox Jews feel when they deal with bureaucracy, whether it's jury duty, that's having a state thing, jury duty, or dealing with different city agencies. Will you commit to hire more Orthodox Jews in your administration, appoint them to positions of influence and authority?
I will commit to making sure that I have the best people on the team in leadership positions, including members of the Orthodox community. I have a track record of making sure that I surround myself by the most capable talent with the right mindset, with the right values. And I would expect that a number of those leaders would be from the Jewish community.
Yeah. Well, you obviously have a tremendous pool of talent from where you're coming from.
Yes, I do. I recognize that. And I intend to access that pool of talent and to get the views and to have the advice of and have them have a seat at the table in the room where it happens.
When you first announced your run for office, I was like thinking, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, where does this Wall Street banker get, call it audacity, call it confidence to run for New York City mayor at the time that the city was, in the middle of a deep tilt leftwards, the biggest tilt that I remember. Then I read your life story, and you have a pretty interesting life story, how you got to that position in Wall Street. You want to tell us some of it?
Well, my story about how I got to Wall Street is, I come from Dayton, Ohio. I was raised by my single mother, who I didn't know my dad, and my single mother, along with my grandparents, raised me and my two brothers, along with half a dozen foster children at any one moment in time. And my mother made the sacrifices. She was a social worker. In fact, my mother worked 3 jobs in order to make sure that she could pay the gas and light bill, or go to the grocery store, or put tithes and offering in the church, or pay the rent. So my mother sacrificed for us to be able to have the necessities. I know what it's like not to have. And based on my mother's sacrifices, there was a school to which the teacher in the 5th grade called up and says, Ray's got some talent here. And they built a school in the south of town. And that's important geographically because that's where the Jewish community came from, the north of town. And the south of town was the Protestant community. And I lived in the west of town. So the bus, I had to walk 3/4 of a mile to a mile to get to the bus, to get to a corner where the bus picked me up. And from 6th grade to 11th grade, based on my mother's sacrifices, I was able to go to a school called the Miami Valley School. And I did well there. At a 4.0 A average. I averaged 28 points per game playing basketball, and I was president of the school. And there's a teacher there who happened to be a Jewish teacher, Robin Melnick, who says, if you're as good as they say you are, go test yourself against the big boys and girls in the East. I said, where are they? And so I took a Greyhound bus around New England by myself, looking for schools, and I landed at a school in Lakeville, Connecticut, called the Hotchkiss School. And I went there for a year, my senior year, which means I took the risk to take all the things that I've been able to accomplish in Dayton at what was a great school and test them against the big boys and girls in the East at Hotchkiss. I did okay. And I applied to colleges, and I was fortunate to get into each one of those colleges. And I went to Harvard College. And then I went on after a year in Europe on a fellowship, which was a great year, a formative year of my life, having to do with the Jewish community. And I then went on to Harvard Law School and Harvard Business School and started my career in New York City almost 4 decades ago. So my story is a story of having to fight for education, having to fight to be where I am. When I came to New York, I had 3 things. I had a great education, I had a lot of debt, and I had no money. And so this city that today is in crisis has been great to me, and I love this city.
So you have it from both ends. You grew up poor, and now you're from the 1%.
Well, I'm not sure it was the 1%. We are. It has been.
That's just an expression. Nothing.
And I say that humbly. We've been able to get here, but I just didn't land in the city. We worked hard. I fought hard, which is what I intend to do for New York, to continue the hard fight. And you know what? I fought hard, and I won.
So aside from the mayoral campaign, let me just ask you, as somebody who you pulled yourself up from the bootstraps to reach where you are, what would you say to people who grew up in your situation, or that and they want to get out of it, they want to make something for themselves? What message do you have to them?
What I say is that I have been and will forever be about opportunity. It should not be the case that our lives are determined, our children's lives are determined by the zip code in which they grew up. And for far too long, that has been the case. And we need to present a different view of the world, a different reality. So my view is education, opportunity, jobs, to make sure that our children have the best quality education so they can get the best available jobs. And that's what this is all about. If you got no education, you can't get a quality job unless we take the time, which is also part of my view of the world, to train, to get access to education and have the training meet New Yorkers where they are educationally until we can go in and repair what is clearly a failing education system for many of our children. We can't tolerate that.
I'm sorry, what?
I said we cannot tolerate that.
I want to get into some of the issues related to Jewish community, but before we get to that, just one last question on this. Once we're on that topic, the next mayor will be the one who will be charged with pulling the city out of the economic slump from COVID. First of all, do you have a plan for that? And second of all, what do you say about the plan that other people have been putting forward, which is raising taxes on those earning above a certain percentage in order to provide a greater benefit, basket for the poorer members?
So what I have said clearly about taxes, given the responsiveness and the leadership by the Biden administration, especially Vice President Kamala Harris, whom I introduced to New York City, given the support that they've given to New York State and the support that they've given to New York City, and infrastructure being amongst the highest priorities that they've outlined, that we do not need to raise taxes. We have tremendous support. And so my plan, so that's my answer directly to your question. It is not necessary. And the thing that I want to do is I want to keep businesses and high-paying tax earners in New York City. We need them. I am pro-growth. I'm pro-growth. So whatever resources we can access and leverage and bring into New York City, I want those resources here so that we can give the opportunities. Now, with respect to my plan, I do have a plan. I can't speak to others' plans, but I know my plan is a thought-through plan which I can afford. It is not the plans that all those people who are running who had the opportunity to put in plans could have done but did not do. All of a sudden, 3 months campaign, they all of a sudden showing up with shiny new pennies that they can all of a sudden execute. My plan is the following: what I call the greatest, most inclusive economic comeback in the history of New York City. Greatest, most inclusive economic comeback in the history of New York City. The comeback plan has at its core the creation of 500,000 jobs. Go big, go small, go forward. And let me just pause on the one that is probably the most critical, and that's the small business, go small, where I intend to, given that small businesses are responsible for 50% of jobs in New York City, we need to give a lifeline to those small businesses. And what I will do is I'll take 50,000 small businesses and subsidize half of their wages for 1 year, help negotiate the retention of New York City sales tax receipts for 1 year, go in and many of the fines that they received during this COVID, I want to have a tax holiday, a FICO score, credit score holiday beginning in February 2020, so they don't have to deal with the issues that were out of their control with respect to COVID. When it comes to the fines, I want to reduce, if not completely eliminate the fines. I want to have a deputy mayor for small businesses who invite small businesses here, cut through the bureaucracy, including the red tape, which means that illustratively, if it takes 180 days to get all the permits in place, if the city hadn't responded, then we waive the fee and we make sure that 181st day business goes into business. And all the fines that they've received, I want to reduce those, if not completely eliminated. And I want to fund a comeback bank, part of my comeback plan, to give grants and perhaps even partner with in form of equity those existing small businesses. And for the emerging small businesses, I'll give grants, I'll give low interest loans, I'll give equity, and we'll give mentorship so that we can invite small businesses in, give them the opportunity to thrive, jumpstart this economy.
Very comprehensive, but you said that you introduced Vice President Kamala Harris to New York City?
Yes.
You have a relationship with her?
Yes, long-standing. As well as a long-standing relationship with the senators who have prevailed, especially Senator Schumer, long-standing relationship with the correct congressional leadership, and a very constructive relationship with the governor.
We'll get to the governor in a minute. Let's talk a little bit about some of the issues about the Orthodox community. Right now, the top issue in the Orthodox electorate is integrity, the dependence of yeshivas. Assuming SED, the state education department, imposes some sort of mandate on yeshivas, maybe to extend the hours of secular studies in a way that yeshivas say is unsustainable, what can you tell parents of yeshiva students to assure them?
With regards to yeshivas, I believe we need to find a way to protect religious liberty and ensure all New Yorkers' needs are met. Education of all our people, all faiths, is key to developing our economy and keeping New York City a leader in the future. And I believe there's a way to work together with the electeds and appointed leadership and the community partners to do both these things. So I look forward to the work to make this happen. The 270 some odd 75 yeshivas, and we need to make certain that they're included as we think about the educating of our children. I've been in Borough Park talking directly to the leadership of the yeshivas, and I'd like to continue that conversation. Been there, I've looked at the curriculum, I've talked to the leadership, I've seen the Hassidic Babov group and the Orthodox voting bloc in Borough Park. So I've been there and sat and talked, and I would enjoy and look forward to making certain that they will be included in the conversation.
Well, we don't have a voting bloc yet.
Well, no, okay,
but we don't.
I've talked to the leadership, and And my expectation is that they will continue to inform me and that we'll continue to partner and come up with the right solution.
Yeah, okay. And I assume when you say that you have those conversations, that they will continue if elected also.
The conversation will yes, they will continue. Yeah. Remember, I am inclusive in my view of the world. I will take the ultimate decision, but my expectation is yes, the communications will continue. Listen, these communications are just part of a campaign. It's a part of how we run this city. So I, by definition, will need the input. By definition, I want and welcome the input.
Yeah. Have you met with members of Yafed?
I've met with members of, I've met with a group of 20 rabbis, a mix of Reform, conservative, Orthodox rabbis. I held a roundtable with 75 Jewish donors and supporters. I've been very close to the community, and this is not new. This is not new for me. I have a long-standing history with the Jewish community. It goes back now at least, at least 1980, at least 40 years.
40 years, okay.
At least. When I cheruted from El Arish to Jerusalem and stayed at the United Jewish Theological Seminary, I've prayed at the wall. I've been in the middle of Ben Yehuda and King David. They thought I was O.C. Perry, who was the great Maccabi basketball player. So yes, I have a long-standing history with the community, and I intend to continue to support and have that relationship. It's part of who I am. It informs my values. So this is not something that I've just all of a sudden come into. These are long-standing, deep relationships. And by the way, my word and my world are informed by the 1963 speech, which I'm certain you are quite aware of, that Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel gave in Chicago, Illinois, on race and religion. It's at that meeting that he met Martin Luther King Jr., and it's also 2 years after that where he and the rabbi and Martin Luther King Jr. marched together in Selma.
Segues into the next question about the Israel question.
Mm-hmm.
You said you've been there.
I have been there. Yes, I have been there.
Yeah. If elected, do you plan on doing the job New York City mayors have traditionally done, which is to be an advocate for Israel?
And listen, Israel is important. Startup Nation is very important. They're important to the economy of New York City. They're important to the ideas of New York City. So the answer is I will be supportive, have been supportive, a long-standing supporter. That's not going to change.
New York City mayors, obviously, besides for being supporters of Israel, they've also, they have usually take like one issue that they make that, they use the bully pulpit of the office to try to change national policy. De Blasio, I think unsuccessfully, he tried to use it for progressive politics. Bloomberg did it, gun control, climate. Giuliani did it, for national security. Those, different things. What do you see as your issue close to your heart that you want to change a national debate on by using a bully pulpit of the New York City mayor's office?
Well, the issue that we need to address at a national level be education. My goal is to make certain that a child's life should not be determined by her or his zip code. That we have the highest quality education that exists anywhere. It ought to be in this country, and it ought to be in this city.
Are you willing to think beyond public school?
I'm willing to think of. I'm looking for the best quality education that exists anywhere.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm looking for it's all about the children. It is all about the children and making sure that our children have the highest quality education, and that this city and this country can compete. I'm about us competing and winning at the highest level.
We spoke before about Governor Cuomo. I don't know if he'll be in office more than a year after the next mayor takes office, or he might win re-election, and then he'll be at least another 5 years. 4 years after that election. You said you have a relationship with him, with Governor Cuomo.
Listen, yes.
De Blasio, when he came into office, one of his selling points was he has a relationship with Governor Cuomo going back many years. That obviously did not turn out, that the relationship obviously, was to a detriment, not to a benefit of the city. How would you deal with the next governor who has so much control over New York City? Whether it's a governor like Cuomo, who sort of it's like, winning is a zero-sum game, or maybe you'll have a different governor that would be more gracious and allow New York City more of its own independence. What is your strategy?
My strategy is to partner with the governor, but my strategy, be very clear, I'm there on behalf of New York. So I will do whatever it is necessary to go and fight for New York. I'm not interested in skirmishes. I'm not interested in any ad hominem attacks. I'm interested in making sure that I represent all that is important to New York City in every way, in every geography I can. As a leader of this city, when I go to Albany and have a conversation, clearly want it to be constructive, but my agenda is going to be clear. I will not waver from that agenda.
Yeah. How do you think de Blasio could have handled the situation better?
I don't know the intricacies of those personalities, but we need to have leadership that's got conviction, leadership that's got courage, and leadership that's got a vision and has a track record of executing.
There's so many issues in the city that you have different neighborhoods have their own unique character, which is a great thing. Like Borough Park. Borough Park in certain ways is unique in the city. Yet the city treats all neighborhoods in a cookie cutter strategy. In other words, just to take for example, like traffic patterns, right? Borough Park is you go Sunday afternoons. Borough Park is a madhouse. You come on Saturday on Shabbos, and there's no traffic, and yet the city still treats traffic patterns, parking violations the same Friday afternoon on a winter afternoon at 4 o'clock when the streets are deserted, and you still get those tickets for parking. How would you consider sort of like a more I would say not central, more like a focused administration of the city's different neighborhoods, rather than just saying that this is a policy across the board?
You have to unpack that a little bit, which means that there's some issues that will lend themselves to a citywide approach, where we need to make sure that we lead equitably. Housing, as an example, and how we zone for housing across the spectrum of housing, from deeply affordable housing to the spectrum. And there's some issues, there's some circumstances where we have to be a bit more tailored. So when it comes to the recognition of Sabbath, as an example, we should be sensitive to that and work with the communities to make sure that we're sensitive to, aware of, and respectful of.
Okay, you want to make a final pitch to the voters, at least the Mishpacha readership?
Listen, at a moment in time when this city is in the midst of a crisis, the crisis of COVID, it's a crisis of the economy, the crisis of religious and racial hatred, the crisis of the climate, this city needs leadership that is uninfluenced, that it is in nobody's pocket. I'm not in anybody's pocket. I didn't get termed out. I'm not looking for a promotion. I've not been part of any administration. And I look at the lineup, and people have had their chance. The others who are here had their chance to make a difference. And we've gone backwards. At a moment in time when the city needs leadership to meet the moment, I have a proven track record of doing just that, of executing. I've actually gotten things done. And the thing that you should know about me is that my truth doesn't change. I don't have to remember tomorrow what I told you today, because my truth doesn't change. I have a proven track record of giving people opportunity, giving them jobs, getting them promoted, and getting them compensated. I have a proven track record of creating wealth. I've created more jobs and created more wealth than all of the other candidates combined. And be very careful here. We're at a really dangerous moment in this city's history, and we need to come together. And if there's anyone who, based on my lived experiences, what I've been able to accomplish professionally and the relationships I've been able to develop, I can bring this city together. I'm culturally aware, culturally informed, and will make certain that this community is going to be at the table with me, giving me input, giving me advice, representing. There is no Calvary. If we don't get it done today, I'm not certain that it's ever going to get done, and this city may drift into being a second-tier city. The moment in time is now. History is being made, and we have the opportunity. I have the opportunity, with your help. I cannot get there without you. With your help, to make certain that the best days of our city are in front of us, and not behind it. Go to rayformayor.com and look at the policies, and at Ray for Mayor when it comes to social media. I need you. The city needs you. So thank you for your support. Thank you for the long-standing friendships and relationships that I have and have enjoyed and continue to enjoy with the Jewish community. We're in this together. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thank you for joining us.